Hey everyone, we're just giving it a minute for everyone to join, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. I still see some folks trickling in, so I'm just going to give it one more minute. All right. Why don't we go ahead and get started? Welcome everyone to tonight's December RTAG general public meeting. My name is Jessica and I'll be moderating the meeting this evening. Next slide, please. Before we get going, just a quick run through of our agenda. First, I'm going to go over some housekeeping for Zoom. Then we're going to hear an update from RTAG's co-chair Elizabeth Foster. Then we're going to hear a presentation from SWA, and then we'll have some time for feedback on SWA's presentation, followed by a presentation from the RIDE, or the Paratransit Services, and then we'll have time for feedback on the RIDE presentation, and then we'll conclude with some closing comments. Next slide. So just some quick Zoom housekeeping. We do have ASL interpretation for tonight's meeting. Our ASL interpreters are Katie McFarlane and Tom Lauterborn. To view their video, you find the interpreter's video in the gallery. In the top right corner of the interpreter's video, you click the ellipses. Then you click the pin video option. This will keep the interpreter's video on your screen. Next slide. We also have CART captioning this evening. Our CART captioner is Denise Gracia. To view closed captioning, click the closed caption icon with the 2 C's. Then you can click and drag the closed captioning to move its positioning in the meeting window. To adjust the caption size, you click the arrow, the upward arrow next to the Start Stop Video button. Then you click Video Settings, then Accessibility. And you move the slider to adjust the caption size. Next slide. Zoom directions for chat and technical questions. If you have a technical question about Zoom or the features of this meeting, please use the chat function to ask those questions. We do have someone moderating the chat and we'll be able to help troubleshoot your problem and get back to you. Next slide. This is a virtual meeting that will be recorded. The MBTA will then post this video recording on the website. Next slide. Next, we're going to hear from Elizabeth Foster, RTAG's co-chair. Elizabeth?
There we are. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our December Riders Transit Access Group public meeting. My name is Elizabeth Foster, and I am the co-chair of RTAG's executive board. In case we have any new folks joining us this evening, I'll just quickly say that RTAG is an independent and consumer-driven board that advises and works with the MBTA on matters that impact seniors and individuals with disabilities. And we advocate for a public transportation system that is accessible and equitable for all its riders. Our work is led by our executive board members, who I'll introduce now, which consist of individual members Jerry Boyd, Joanne Daniels Feingold, Tom Gilbert, Elizabeth Dean Clower, and myself. And our organizational members are Kathy Paul, representing Mass Senior Action Council, Diana Hu, representing the Boston Center for Independent Living, Cassandra Xavier, representing Disability Policy Consortium, and Nora Nagel, from Bay State Council of the Blind, who I'm very excited to announce is also our new organizational co-chair. Since our last general public meeting, we've continued to partner with the plaintiffs from the Daniels-Feingold versus MBTA settlement on fixed route advocacy initiative, and most recently, we've been focusing on the bus network redesign. We've also hosted a listening session on accessibility and diversions, and our last couple meetings have focused on completing our work plan for 2023, which will include topics such as providing feedback on customer outreach protocols, as well as a new accessibility marketing campaign, feedback on station design, and continuing to work with SWA on safety and diversion protocols. Our RIDE subcommittee has also continued to meet regularly with the Office for Transportation Access, and recently our members of our RIDE subcommittee actually went and visited TREC. And during our last meeting, the subcommittee and the executive board together provided feedback on the development of expanding the fixed route and independent monitoring program to now include the RIDE, which is very exciting news. On January 26th, we are going to be hosting a listening session on safety in paratransit that will be open to the public, so please join us for that. The registration link and meeting details will be up on the MBTA website. Thank you all again so much for joining us here tonight. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Jessica to introduce our invited MBTA presentations.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Next up, we're going to hear from Laura Brelsford, Assistant General Manager of the Department of System-Wide Accessibility. Laura?
Thanks, Jessica. Good evening, everybody. I had a few updates I wanted to share with you all from the world of our fixed route system here at the team. Next slide. The first and in many ways the most exciting is the opening of the Medford branch of the brand new Green Line extension. So for those of you who may not have heard, on December 12th, just a few days ago, service for the first time ever on the Green Line began serving Medford. Really, two new branches here. Two branches use this extension. The E branch trains terminate at the new Medford and Tough Stop, whereas the D branch terminates at Union Station. So we've got 5 brand new accessible stations in addition to Leechmere and Union, which opened earlier in the year. And these are East Somerville Station, Gilman Square Station, Lagoon Station, Ball Square Station, and Medford Tufts. And on the screen is a photo of our general manager, Steve Kovdak, Charlie Baker, our governor, and a number of other guests and dignitaries who were just about to cut the ribbon, celebrating the grand opening at the Medford Tufts stop. All right, next slide. So for those of you who maybe have not yet been out to the new stations, we really want to emphasize that accessibility was built into the concepts for these stations from the very, very beginning. So at each of these locations, we have 2 accessible paths to the platforms. Anywhere there's more than one entrance to the station. All of the platforms are breezed to be compatible with our new Type 8 and 9 vehicles. There are customer assistance areas located at each of the platforms with the new style emergency callbacks. And there is new and improved PA systems and digital signage throughout the stations. So if you have the opportunity to head out on the Green Line to Somerville or Medford, please check out any of these new stations and let us know what you think. Next slide. All right, a very different grand opening I wanted to share with you all is earlier this fall, Reduced Fares team here at the MBTA achieved an incredibly exciting milestone. And that is, for the first time ever, folks who are interested in applying for reduced fare Charlie cards, whether that's a senior Charlie card, TAP Charlie card, which essentially is a disability Charlie card, a blind access Charlie card, or a youth pass, can now do so online. Historically, a paper application that was dropped off at our downtown crossing Charlie card store was the only way to apply, but that is no longer the case. Next slide. So today there are still a number of ways that you can apply in person and get assistance from an MBTA employee. So the Charlie card store I mentioned is still very much open and is located at 7 Chauncey Street in Boston. This is sort of the Summer Street concourse at Downtown Crossing Station. And you can also get assistance at our new mobility center, which is located at 1000 Mass Ave in Boston. So either of these locations are available to assist you with your application in person, including taking your photo. If you happen to be interested in the youth pass, there are a number of participating cities and towns that offer specific locations where you can sign up. And to find out more, you can go to mbta.com/fares/reduced/youth-pass. There'll be a link to this in the chat. And then, as I was just mentioning, for anyone interested in applying for reduced fare online, all 4 of those Charlie cards are available through applications online through our website at mbta.com. Next slide. And just to give you a quick snapshot at some of the screens you'll see when applying, for those who are applying for a TAP Charlie card, just as with the paper application, in order to be deemed eligible, you will need to provide proof of disability. So for new and renewing applicants, renewing applicants are required to show documentation. So you've got a few different options here. You can upload your proof of disability, which may be a Medicare card, or a letter from a various participating state agencies. You can enter a RIDE ID. Being a RIDE user with a RIDE ID number, it makes you automatically eligible for reduced fare on the fixed route. Or you can upload a completed signed healthcare certification form.
Oh, I'm on there. I'm waiting.
What was that?
Keep going.
Okay. So just visually on the right side of the screen are 2 screenshots that depict what you see as you're navigating the online application, specifically with respect to uploading your substantiating documentation. Next slide. And regardless of the reduced fare card that you are applying for, you're going to be asked to upload your photo. So this is something that you can do with a smartphone, a digital camera, or a scanned image of yourself. And again, if this is something that you need help with, staff are available both at the Charlie card store and the mobility center to provide that assistance. Next slide. All right, finally, given the time of year we find ourselves in, I just wanted to cover some basics around snow and ice removal here at the MBTA. And on the screen is a photo of a very, very snowy bus stop and two MBTA employees in reflective yellow jackets shoveling out an accessible pathway at the bus stop. Next slide. So first, I just wanted to touch on the division of responsibilities between the T and the cities and towns in which we operate, because this is a question that comes up a fair amount. So with respect to responsibilities on the MBTA side, the T is responsible for removing snow from all of our stations and bus stops on MBTA property. Removing snow at the landing pad, so that's the area where the front door aligns and a bus ramp deploys, and through the snow berm, which is the area that of snow that often piles up between the edge of the sidewalk and the front of the bus, along the 15 key bus routes is something that the MBTA over the last few years has volunteered to do. So the key routes are generally the MBTA's highest ridership routes, and they include Route 1, 15, 22, 23, 28, 32, 39, 57, 66, 71, 73, 77, 111, 116, and 117. Even though the stops along each of these routes are located on city and town sidewalks, the T has recognized how critical it is for our riders, and has been taking responsibility for shoveling these out. We also feel that we are responsible for setting standards across the bus network with respect to snow removal to ensure a safe and accessible service area. On the municipal side, so with respect to what the cities and towns have responsibility for, we believe that the cities and towns have responsibility for all of the bus stops on their municipal property, but not the 15 key routes, given that we are actively clearing those. And we ask and we remind the municipalities that in addition to clearing the bus stops, they should be removing snow along the path of travel to the bus stops. So for those of us who really rely on those accessible paths of travel, there's often nothing worse than getting off the bus at a cleared stop and not being able to get off of the bus stop down the sidewalk because of uncleared sidewalks or curb ramps. We also ask municipalities to remove snow from the roads, including along the bus lanes and the bus stops. And this is particularly critical for those routes now where we have high priority Center Island bus lanes. They are also responsible for enforcing snow removal responsibilities on property owners and abutters. Next slide. And every year we send out information to our local municipal partners, and we talk about what we believe is really critical when it comes to snow removal at bus stops. And we remind them that there are really three key areas to focus on. The first is the landing pad. And again, that's the area where the front door aligns with the sidewalk in order to make sure there's adequate room for a bus ramp to deploy and for somebody to wheel on or off of that ramp. Really need to clear a 6 foot by 8 foot clear space. one thing that's often forgotten is a cut through the snow berm that piles up between the front of the bus stop and the roadway. So if this doesn't happen, a bus ramp simply cannot be deployed. It will just crash into that big pile of snow. And for anybody trying to step off the bus, they are left simply to step into a messy pile of snow. So cutting through that snow berm, at least 3 foot wide, ideally 8 foot, is really important. And then, as I mentioned, making sure the connections from the bus stop to the connecting sidewalks and curb ramps is equally as vital. And the next slide has a really great graphic that we developed. We actually had a virtual meeting with many Department of Public Works employees 2 weeks ago, and we talked through this. And this simply is a visual depiction of the dimensions and the standards I just mentioned. So you can see on the screen, we've got a schematic of a Forest Hills bound bus pulled in at a bus stop, and an image of somebody using a wheelchair boarding a bus with a ramp deployed. Again, it shows that, we've got that critical landing pad area with a cut through the snow that is at least 60 inches wide. Next slide. All right, I am going to wrap it up here. As always, I just want to remind everyone that if you're interested in learning more about accessibility, we have a tremendous amount of resources online. If you go to mbta.com/accessibility, you can find more. I particularly encourage folks to check out a link to our new mobility center, which I mentioned earlier in the presentation. Got a lot of great resources there, both virtually as well as in person. Also, we just published our semi-annual report on all of the different accessibility initiatives going on system-wide related to the fixed route system, including the fact that we've got 26 stations under design or construction for full accessibility upgrades as we speak. So definitely check out that report when you have some time. And then, as always, if you ever have any questions, if you ever have a complaint about service that you've experienced out on the system, or commendations or recommendations, we really do want to hear from you. So you can get us through our main call center at 617-222-3200 or 711 for relay. You can file a question, commendation, or complaint online by clicking on the support tab in the top right part of our homepage. Or you can always tweet at us by tweeting at MBTA. And any piece of feedback that is accessibility related will get directed, in addition to the relevant service area, to my team in system-wide accessibility. And we'll make sure that it's tracked and responded to appropriately. So with that, I will conclude things here. And one last thing. Also in the vein of learning more, if you would like to get added to our monthly newsletter distribution list, you can sign up at mbta.com/SWA sign up. Or if you are QR code savvy, if you hold your phone up to your screen over the QR code, you will be automatically directed to that link. We would love to get you added to the distribution list so you can be in the loop on new and exciting updates related to access here at the team. All right, and with that, I am going to turn it over to Jessica.
Thank you, Laura. I'm just going to give it a second for Me to be spotlit. Okay. So now we're gonna go ahead with our questions and comments for Laura and her team. So to indicate that you have a question, we're gonna use Zoom's raise hand feature. The raise hand feature is located at the bottom of the screen. When you raise your hand, it'll alert me that you'd like to speak, and then we will prompt you to unmute yourself so that you can ask your question or give your comment. We will call on folks in the order of which hands are raised. So first to speak, you click the reactions, then the raise hand button. On your keyboard, you can also click Alt-Y. And if you're joining us by phone, you can click *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. So go ahead and start calling on some folks. Looks like Don Summerfield, you're up first. Don? Don, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Great.
Okay, good. Laura, this is Don Summerfield. What are the answers to those questions I had in Judge King's meeting and followed up with you because you didn't reach out to me? And I had more issues today concerning securement. Laura,
Donald, can you repeat that? I didn't get.
I said, what would be the answers to the issues I raised in Judge King's meeting? And I followed up with you the next day. And I had more issues concerning securements today.
So Donald, why don't you repeat what those questions are? I know I followed up. We did not.
Well,
connecting them.
well, there was an issue and it happens frequently. There was a green line car that the bridge plates weren't working correctly. And he could have actually deployed the portable ramp, whatever the technical name for that is, I don't know, the one you roll up to right to his level to where I would get on, and that wasn't available to me. I asked for the high floor car in the back, didn't know about this feature. That didn't happen. An inspector came over, finally got the bridge plates to work, but in the process, they called somewhere to find out if the portable ramps were available in Science Park, but it's in my knowledge that they're in every station. And they have a mini high at Science Park. That was not known. And I mentioned that frequently because I have securements above all four wheels frequently, and I've complained sometimes. I'm tired of complaining all the time. They put their securements on my wheelchair frame and endangering me and also endangering my wheelchair. Those are the questions. And I had issues again with another bus driver today, which I'll file a complaint. He put the right rear on the wrong, he didn't put on the securement. He gave me different reasons for why he didn't. So Laura, you're up.
All right, thank you for that recap, sir. So with respect to the green line, I do know, and my team will jump in here if any of my information is outdated already. But I do know that the complaint that you raised is actively under investigation. In fact, just earlier this week, we had a meeting with a number of the senior subway officials, and the head of the Green Line was there and was aware of the complaint and that it was being investigated and looked into. So I do not believe the investigation has been concluded, but all the appropriate parties are looking into it to understand what happened. And you will definitely be getting a response back that will be reviewed by my team before
Although I never filed a official complaint on that, that was just your doing. I won't get a response from anyone except from you.
Oh, well, all right, so I do know that for some reason, the Green Line official was aware of this. Perhaps it was because the motor person and inspector involved in the incident relayed the information to him. So regardless, there is an investigation going on. What I would say to you, Donald, is I would ask you to file an official complaint. Like, we simply do not have.
Well, I don't have the time on that complaint anymore. It was given to you at Judge King's meeting, or just given to Judge King because you didn't respond. I don't.
Well,
So
certainly, Donald, I think, as you know, we cannot respond to in these formats
no,
without.
I understand that, but Judge King said you'd be responding to me, which you didn't.
Okay, well, that's not the case, but we can follow up on this outside of this meeting. And with respect to securements, I am absolutely disappointed to hear that you continue to have incidents where bus operators are not applying all four securements appropriately. This is something that operators receive a tremendous amount of training on, and we do a tremendous amount of monitoring. So this is something, just so everyone's aware, that our monitoring program covers, and there are very clear guidelines and penalties associated with operators who do not secure wheel mobility devices appropriately. So we certainly are aware there's areas where there's work to do, but this is an area, the MBTA issue, the MBTA takes very, very seriously. Donald, to the extent that you have not been able to so far, or yeah, I would really appreciate getting details on those incidents, because now that we have video on our buses, we really are able to hold operators accountable when they're not doing what they should. I completely appreciate that. Sometimes filing a complaint is the last thing you want to do after you've experienced poor service, but it does help us drive good change here.
And I will be filing complaint on this latest incident today, and thank you. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Don. Next, we have a great question in the chat, and then we'll move on to Jennifer. So from Abby Swain, if a rider finds that a municipality hasn't performed their snow removal responsibilities and seems unwilling or evasive about doing so, can SWA intervene?
So generally what we advise is that if there's a persistent if there's a persistent issue with lack of snow removal within a particular city and town, we would strongly advise the individual to be in touch with that municipality's DPW and Disability Commission, and civil rights office if they exist. We found often that disability advocates and riders with disabilities are the most effective on these issues. That having been said, there have been a handful of times where we have reached out on behalf of riders who are navigating persistent snow and ice removal issues within their city. Candidly, I cannot say if we have a better track record or not at improving that city or town's snow removal practices, but it has something it's something we've done in the past. So my first ask would be to really reach out to the municipality if you get stuck, absolutely feel free to reach out to us and we can brainstorm. I know this is something in meeting with RTAG's executive board. One thing we've talked about on and off is thinking about ways to collectively think about advocating throughout the entire service area. What would it take to really effectively advocate on this issue? And that's something that we would very much welcome those conversations to continue with all with everyone who is part of RTAG.
Thanks, Laura. I know it's been discussed for years with the plaintiffs as well from the settlement, so ongoing. Next, Jennifer Smith Workman.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm going to piggyback off of that municipality clearing of sidewalks. Now, when there's a bus stop right by the ramps where where you can get to the bus stops, whose responsibility is that? Is that the MBTA? You know, the ramps to get on the sidewalks where like wheelchair accessibility is. Whose responsibility is that? Because even to get across the street where the bus stop is, I have hard times trying to even climb over the snowbanks to go, you know, to the next bus stop and or to get on the bus. The buses, they pull up right up to the snowbanks, and it's so hard to get up on the bus because you got to climb over a snowbank that's at the bus stop.
Yes, absolutely. So if that curb ramp or that sidewalk is located on MBTA property, and many are at our stations or adjacent to our stations, the MBTA has responsibility. If they are not located on our property, it is the city and town's responsibility.
See, I wonder why, because this bus stop is right where a mailbox is. You see what I'm saying? So I think you guys fuss about whose responsibility is it? But how does the MBTA really allocate that when it is right next to a bus stop? I mean a bus stop next to a mailbox. I think they kind of fight if it's, you know, yeah, well, our sign is right here, but there's also a mailbox right here, which means, okay, it's city property or what? How do you fight with that? Of clearing that?
So yeah, so going back to the previous question, I think that the issue of, you know, sort of what municipalities clear and how they do that is a really big question, because there are some cities and towns within our service area who do a phenomenal job around snow removal. And there are others that simply don't, often because of lack of resources and lack of adequate budget. So again, even though those key routes are not on our property, we do not own those city sidewalks or curb ramps.
Right.
The T stepped up to say, all right, we're gonna do those. We do expect the cities and towns to do the other stops. And again, I think this is collectively an incredible advocacy, you know, opportunity and big and important issue. That we're happy to be partners in. I know just from the feedback we received that snow and ice removal is one of the most significant accessibility barriers our riders face. But again, municipalities have a huge role in this, given that it's city sidewalks and city curb ramps that our stops are located on.
Laura, it seems that the stops that are getting cleared are the stops that have like the benches or the booths there, and not just where the stops are. I think those where just the signs are being overlooked. I think we need to really put a effort into where just the signs are to be cleared, not just where the booths are.
Okay,
And I mainly speak for the Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan area. That's where I mainly see it.
got it, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
All right.
Another question from the chat before we move on to Shirley from Cassandra. Will the video from a few weeks ago be released from SWA at Mattapan Library? I think this was a video Cassandra helped you guys film a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so actually, Cassandra, that is a great question. So for folks, for everybody else, and their awareness, my team has been working as part of a number of kind of new fun educational tools to develop a few new videos for writers and future writers to talk about accessibility at the T. And recently a video was shot in and around Mattapan that highlights some of the accessibility of our bus network, and Cassandra was one of the actors who joined the crew that day. So Cassandra, I know that the team, Aniko and Jennifer from my staff, and then folks from the video team are looking at some of the footage now. I expect we're gonna see a rough draft in early January. So I'm hoping before the end of January, early February, we've got something up on our website. But huge thank you to you and everybody that took part in that. I was not there, but it sounded like a lot of fun. And I know I can't wait to see the video. We will plan to play that at the next RTAG meeting.
That sounds great. And I heard it was a good time, so looking forward to seeing it. Next, Shirley. Shirley Doris.
Sorry, I just had to unmute myself. Hi,
you're all
Laura. If you wouldn't mind, could you please repeat your phone number so I can jot it down, please?
Sure. So the number I gave out is to the MBTA's call center.
Okay.
That is 617-222-3200.
Okay, and is that the number we call if people have complaints or questions?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, thank you, Lauren.
You're
I
very
mean, Laura, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Shirley. Okay, do we have any other questions for SWA before we move on to our ride presentations? We're ahead of schedule. I'm afraid to say that, but this never happens.
Isn't it?
Yeah, so you can hear me. I got a question.
Okay, is that
Yeah.
Joseph?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Joseph.
Okay, you're talking about accessibility, and I know you're talking about the ride presentations. We both have Uber and Lyft, and we use wheelchair vehicles. The problem is we're having a lot of trouble getting Uber and Lyft wheelchair vehicles, and I want to know why. I think this has to do with part of the ride program.
Sure. Are you able to hold your question until after the ride presentation for the ride portion?
Yeah, I can wait.
Okay, thank you. All right. Why don't we,
How do we know how long that's gonna take?
I think that's it. Okay, so Michelle, why don't we go ahead and move to your presentation?
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Don. I just saw that Don had his hand up. Don, did you have a second question?
Laura, can you now hear me?
We can hear
Okay.
you.
Okay, good. Laura, it's more of a comment than question. Calling 3200 versus emailing your concerns doesn't always work, because I've called with a complaint and gotten a return. It was totally different than what I had originally said. So should I ask verbatim for them to repeat me back? I don't think that's necessary. So calling 3200 has not been always successful for me. What's your thought?
Donald, I didn't, I don't know that I heard you spot on. Did you say that calling 3200 isn't always an accessible option for
No,
you?
they don't always take your complaint as given verbatim. They paraphrase, and there were complaints that were responded to me weeks later that wasn't the exact complaint I gave. It was actually totally different.
Yep, I see. So yeah, so let me say this. So yeah, I do know there have been concerns that we've raised, and I've heard from others too, that that the call agents at the call center are not always accurately capturing complaints. This is something that I know the call center leadership at the T is taking seriously and doing their own monitoring. That having been said, generally we review all the complaints. We feel that those options are not too frequent. What I would say though is, just so everybody is aware, another option that may be available for some folks is that if you fill out a complaint form online, you are in control of exactly what information is captured in the body of that complaint. So for those that are comfortable using our website, that is a really, really great alternative, because everything you type into the narrative gets into the body of the complaint.
Thanks, Laura. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Next, we're going to move on to our ride presentations.
Okay.
So Michelle, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
All right. Thank you. So November ridership is down slightly from October. However, November 2022 is up 19% from November of 2021. So year over year, we're continuing to see an increase. If you can go to the next slide. November on-time performance was 87%, which is a 1% decline from October. We did see a decrease in trips over 120 minutes. This issue, I know that you hear this from me every month or every other month, but it can be attributed to the ongoing driver shortage, vacations, increased sick time usage, and increased usage of FMLA leave. We are looking at this issue creatively. We all know that there's a driver shortage. We're looking at other opportunities to improve efficiency and optimize how we broker trips. We go to the next slide, please. Our call center is also experiencing staffing challenges. This has impacted our hold times. We received over 100,000 calls in the month of November, and our average speed of answer for reservations was 10.8 minutes. Providers are working on recruitment. And again, I keep repeating this, but what we're also doing is we're focusing on retention and improving the productivity of existing staff. We have seen an improvement from October to November in call center performance. Regarding customer feedback, we received 295 complaints and 19 commendations for the month of November. The most common complaint was pickups outside of the window. I'd like to note that 81 of the recorded complaints for the month of November were specifically related to the service disruption on November 11th. And I'll be prepared to speak to that at the end. If we can go to the next slide, please. So with respect to RTAG subcommittee meetings, they continue to occur monthly. We have recently focused on RideFlex, eligibility and certification, System-wide accessibility service monitoring expansion to the ride. Our last meeting, we spent, I yielded time to Laura to discuss the great efforts and progress they've made on developing the program and its expansion to the ride. We're looking forward to that. We've also provided tours of the Mobility Center and track, and we are planning to focus on ride communications in our January meeting. You can go to the next slide. I'd like to hit on a couple of items as far as other ride business. The mask policy, I know that I've been sharing that this is going to change effective January 1st. I just want to remind everyone that this is indeed going to happen. The ride will no longer require our customers to wear masks. Customers can continue to wear masks at their own discretion, and we will continue to enforce the ride mask requirement for our drivers. If we hang on right here, I'm going to skip over service disruption for just a moment to mention ride partnerships. You'll soon start to see messaging regarding additional providers, Userve and Curve. They will be providing ADA paratransit level door-to-door service, and we're excited to see that happening. We have some planned seat drops and some messaging that will go out. And again, this is another creative way to improve and enhance the service that we provide. Next, I'll go to our service disruption. So we experienced a significant communications outage on Friday, November 11th. It affected our software and our phones from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. Because we were concerned with our ability to safely transport customers and the communications outage, we determined that we would suspend for that period of time in the morning. Fortunately, we were able to resume at 11 o'clock. We determined that it was a combination of hardware and software incompatibility issues at track. And what we learned from this is that we can do a little bit further investigation. We expanded to review all of our providers' hardware and software, and we were able to perform additional upgrades. And moving forward, we're going to work on lessons learned. We are exploring additional opportunities to monitor our software and our phones, and we are looking at improving customer communications. Again, it's really timely that we're going to meet in January and focus on this. The communications channels that we used, and we're looking for feedback from our customers. But we do have some interesting initiatives underway, and I'm looking forward to speaking to them in January. And the next slide, please. And this we're going to tack onto the back of every presentation I deliver, which is we are hiring. Appreciate you getting the word out, and every little bit helps. And that is all I have for this evening's meeting, but I'd like to open the floor to questions.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm just going to give it a minute for me to be spotlit. Okay. So next we're going to open it up for questions on the ride presentation. So we're once again going to utilize the raise hand feature. So if you have a question, please use Zoom's raise hand feature located at the bottom of the screen. When you raise your hand, it'll alert me that you have a question you'd like to ask, and then we'll prompt you to unmute. And we will unmute attendees in the order that they raise their hands. So to raise your hand using the computer, you just click the reactions button, then raise hand. You can also hit Alt-Y on your keyboard. Or if you're joining us by phone, you can click *9 on your keypad or *6 to unmute. So why don't we go ahead and first start with Joseph's question, since he was first technically.
I don't get a chance to ask a question.
Yeah, you
with
can ask a question.
Go
All
ahead,
right,
Joseph.
Yeah, okay, like I said earlier, both my wife and I are disabled. We're part of the RIDE program, and the reason why when you guys decided to contract with Uber and Lyft, it was to help us get around a lot easier. Back in 2019, we never had any problems with Uber or Lyft or getting a lift vehicle or wheelchair vehicle at all. At most, the wait was about 20 minutes at most. Today, we've been trying to get on and off Uber and Lyft, and the vehicles are not available when we need them. It seems like at 3 o'clock, they all go off the clock. We're both disabled. It's hard taking the bus in this weather. We don't want to depend on the ride because they're very unreliable. They've run late many times on us.
As you saw by the chart,
Right, and the thing is, we need to know why Uber and Lyft, being contracted with the T, don't have the vehicles and are not running on the ride time schedule.
the way we were told that Uber and Lyft would be riding on the same schedule as the ride. That is not true because, like my husband said, we cannot get them after 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Now, I
sorry.
emailed you people the other day. We shouldn't be asking questions. You people should be saying what you're doing to make it better for us. Because the way I see it, you people want all the disabled locked away in their homes and out of your sight. You don't want to see us. Well, I'm sorry that we're disabled. We didn't do anything to cause our disability. And we have the right to have lives just the way you do. I'm angry and I'm tired of having disabled people being treated like we should be thrown under a bus.
Okay, because yesterday I was trying to make a reservation to get an Uber or a Lyft, and the wait time was almost 45 to 50 minutes. And then once we get to our destination, I have to start it early enough to see if we can get a ride home from our destination. And it seems like, again, it's like 35 minutes to maybe sometimes an hour. So I need to know why, you guys contracted with Uber and Lyft. We should be able to have the reliable service that's provided. So that's the question I have.
I also have another statement.
Okay.
You want everybody off the ride. Once you get everybody off the ride, I'd like to know, what will the ride function be when they have no disabled people to pick up?
Because we got that from one of the drivers. They've been saying that they're trying to limit, trying to reduce the amount of travel on the ride. That's why we turned over to Uber and Lyft, so we're that
Yeah,
much
so we
less.
could do you a favor and get off the
So it's that
ride.
much less because, like I said, again, the ride is very unreliable, and Uber and Lyft was reliable. Now they've fallen into the same category.
Okay. Well, first off, I can hear that you're very frustrated, and I'm sorry that you feel that way. We do a lot with respect to Uber and Lyft. And the idea of Uber and Lyft was to expand transportation opportunities and also to assist with our existing service providers and the struggles they're having with hiring drivers. We do meet with, my staff does meet with Uber and Lyft weekly. We do track response times. And we, at every opportunity, are looking to expand the number of wheelchair accessible vehicles that Uber and Lyft provide. And we track this information and report out to the FTA. And we seek to improve and reduce that wait time with every month. So we do track that information. And to circle back to what I mentioned earlier, I started with on-time performance and the challenges with respect to hiring drivers for paratransit services. Some of that's what you're seeing, the impact to on-time performance. So we have Uber and Lyft, and I did briefly mention that we're looking to onboard Userve and Curve, which will also provide ADA level service, similar to our existing dedicated service providers, and door-to-door service. So we're looking forward to offering more drivers and more service and improved on-time performance.
Please get drivers who know how to speak and understand English.
Yeah, that was another
That
problem
would
we
be
had.
nice, because a couple of weeks ago, I almost got whacked in the face by a driver.
Okay, one other thing, with the Uber and Lyft. I talked to a representative of Lyft at one time. And the thing is, they're saying that they are trying to hire drivers, but the thing is, they need to get more vehicles. And for some reason, the state or the T's not helping them get those vehicles that they need. So I was wondering what can be done with that as well, because I've already talked to some of the state legislators about trying to get them some assistance to buy vehicles. And that's another problem that they have, they told me.
Yeah, because they want us locked away in our homes. They don't want to see us.
We do
It's
offer
nothing.
assistance. We do subsidize wheelchair accessible vehicles for Uber and Lyft. So we
Okay,
do
that's-
provide assistance to encourage them to add additional wheelchair accessible vehicles. So there is a lot that we are doing. And I would encourage you, because I do hear, I believe that's your wife speaking also. If
Right.
you do have concerns about driver behavior or experience on board the ride, to submit a complaint through customer service, because it's important that we're aware of it, that we track it, and that we hold our providers accountable.
Okay, because that's what I've been doing too. I've been sending out a couple of complaints here and there. And I guess what the gentleman said, no matter you call or email, it doesn't seem like we're getting any answers back on
Yeah.
the questions or concerns we have.
Telling somebody they can voice their questions and concerns and you'll take care of it. That all sounds good, but that remains to be seen,
Right, but-
okay?
But that, like I said, but that's the questions, that's some of the problems we have too, like one of the other attendees said. Like I said, I write out complaints, sometimes I get an answer to them, and sometimes I don't. I've called a couple of times, they said they'd be taking care of a couple of things, and it never happens. I don't know what else to tell you. But there are some concerns on that too. Because I know you want to hear about any problems we do have
Oh,
to try to get
please.
the service, better service.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Can
Okay,
I ask if you've submitted any complaints recently?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the last one I complaint was,
today,
one today,
Okay.
we had an Uber driver who was driving and on a cell phone. And I know under Uber and Lyft's, rules and regulations, they're not supposed to be on a phone at all, except to access the app, that they use. And this guy was on the phone talking, I guess to his girlfriend or something, I
from
don't
the
know.
time he picked me up until the time he left me off. In fact, when you left me off, he got right back on the phone.
I will ask a team member to take a look at your recent complaints.
Okay.
But
I'll
I
put
just
one-
wanted to be certain that you understood that we are introducing additional providers to help with ADA service.
Okay, that's important, because like I said, especially with the cold weather, I don't want to be waiting at a bus stop for a bus. I'd rather use the Uber or Lyft, because at least I know I'm gonna be in a warm vehicle. I can stay where I am until I get here. Other than that, we're waiting for the bus, we're out in the cold.
And not only that, we seem to be having a lot of trouble getting Ubers and Lyfts to take us from family members' home in Medford, Mass.
Yeah, that's
To
another,
back to Chelsea.
yeah,
Medford, I don't know what it is about Medford. They don't want to come there.
yeah, that's the other concern with Uber
Okay.
and Lyft. Check out the city of Medford, because every time we're in Medford, it seems like it takes almost an hour and a half to get a ride. And a couple of times we've had to take the bus home.
A couple of times I had to ride him back in my husband's wheelchair from Medford to Chelsea and risk getting hit by a car. Maybe you people think that's funny for a couple of handicapped people to end up dead, but other people don't.
Yeah, so that's the other concern we had too. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, I'm really sorry. It's clear that you're very frustrated. We are working. We do have several things underway right now that I spoke to in this presentation, and we're hoping to see significant improvements as we move forward.
Well, I hope we can, because I'll tell you, the service, Uber and Lyft was good at first. We really enjoyed having it. A lot of the drivers who use wheelchair vehicles have been very good to us over the years. And I do appreciate them, but sometimes it's the regular drivers that have the problems as well. But like I said, I appreciate that, and I hope that we are gonna be able to get better service here, because using a ride sometimes, I had a quick little story. I had an incident a couple of years ago with a ride, and there was 65 minutes late picking me up and I ended up having to take the bus to my destination. And like it says, those are some of the concerns that we have, but I do appreciate the time and I appreciate you listening. And you know, like I said, we are kind of really upset about a lot of the issues here.
Thank you both for coming and for sharing your experiences. And we appreciate your comments.
All right.
Next, we have a question in the chat, and then we'll move on to Shirley from Cassandra. If there's an opportunity to design an app that is accessible to track drivers, can that happen?
So the question is an app for our drivers. Can I get more clarity on the question?
Cassandra, are you able to provide more clarity on the question? Are you able to hop on video to sign? Why don't we give it a minute, and if she's able to hop on, we'll circle back. So why don't we go ahead and let Shirley ask her question. Shirley?
Hello, Michelle.
Hello.
I just have a couple of questions or concerns. My first question is, and this again is pertaining to the Ride Flex with, I use Lyft. Whenever the ride schedules for the Lyft to pick me up, there's been once or twice that the Lyft driver will ride right on by me, and when I call back to the ride, it's just a long waiting time to get a hold of somebody. And of course, the problem is fixed within a few minutes, but it's the whole time of 30 to 45 minutes, waiting after the car has left to call back and let you guys know, or, someone at the call center know that my ride has left me and I need another vehicle. I guess my question is there another phone number or a quicker way to get in contact with someone when something like that happens?
Thank you, Shirley, for your question. And I just want to be sure that I hear this. So you say that these are the integrated trips. These are the trips that track dispatches to Lyft?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what I'm hearing is it's happened on more than one occasion where Lyft bypasses you and you have to contact the call center?
Yes, I'm going to say in the past, let's just say the past 6 months, there's been 2 incidences where that has happened.
Okay.
And I understand if someone is not there waiting, whenever we get the notification, I always get a notification that your Lyft driver is arriving in so many minutes, please be outside. And then I get the notification, your Lyft driver is here. So on both occasions, I was standing right outside on the corner, and I'm visually impaired. One occasion I did have a sighted person standing with me because I was at a seminar, and they had walked out with me to make sure, it was at night, to make sure that, they were helping me find the car that I needed to get into. And the sighted gentleman said to me, "What kind of car is it?" And my phone told him what kind of car it was. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, there it goes." And it went right past me, right across, and just kept going. So I'm just asking, is there a quicker way? Like I said, once I call and someone picks up, it is a long hold time. I guess I'm trying to find out if there's a quicker way rather than waiting, 20, 30, 45 minutes on hold. to get access to somebody, because once I do, the problem is fixed within 5 minutes, you know, and then another car arrives soon after that.
Okay. Well, two things and two ways to tackle this. And the first is for us to reach out to Lyft and ensure that they're following through on their pickups. But the second concern, and I've heard this before from our customers, is we have one line that the calls come through. And I expect that the people I speak to tonight are all going to be frustrated, and that's perhaps why you're here. We are working to chip away at those hold times, but I would encourage you to participate in the RTAG subcommittee meeting so we can discuss improved communications. You know what, actually, it is worth noting. So we're setting up for this improved communications dialogue in January. It is worth noting that one of the improvements that you don't see that's not readily apparent is how we identify the vehicle location and provide estimated time of arrivals, and that we've decreased that time. So we have a more accurate capture of when the vehicle is going to arrive. And we are also looking at improving notifications and pushing information out with respect to vehicle arrival time. But the communications aspect, we are chipping away at those call hold times. And again, this is something I have heard from customers before and something we're all concerned about. And if you are available, I would encourage you to participate in the January RTAG subcommittee meeting and the Q&A session that we're looking to set up, so we can speak to it a little bit more and hear from more customers.
I just want to clarify. So the subcommittee members do go through an appointment process from the RTAG executive board. So the meeting Michelle is inviting folks to is an open meeting that on customer communications, because this has been an issue that has been raised numerous times here at these meetings and also by subcommittee members. So we dedicated an entire listening session in January to this particular issue.
And Shirley, there are several smaller changes that we're making that I'd be happy to share with you. As we're tweaking and looking to make improvements, we're not there yet with a separate line, only because we're short-staffed and we have all staff operating all lines right now.
I totally understand that. I understand the staffing problem, both with the call center and with the ride vehicles. So I hear that all the time, and I totally am understanding of that. It's just, you know, if Ride is partnered with Lyft and Uber, and someone is standing right there and then the car rides by them and you get the notification, oh, they canceled your ride, you know, and then you have to call back. And so I'm just trying to find a quicker way, but I understand that you're working on it.
I'm sorry. Well, I was going to say, and Shirley, we do meet with them. We meet with Uber and Lyft weekly. And this information that you're sharing with us is important, and it's something that we can absolutely bring up in the meeting and discuss this and express our concerns and expectations with respect to improvement and not missing these trips.
Right. And one more thing, Michelle, also, and this you'll probably ask me to, you know, with joining the January meeting as well for this one. So I have several friends. I do not own a guide dog, but I do have friends that have guide dogs, and those friends are also ride participants, and they are, you know, on the Ride Flex program. There are a couple of them that continually, when they get a Lyft vehicle, they are continually being bypassed and denied a ride because they have a guide dog.
Shirley,
And-
I was going to say I would ask that you encourage them to submit that or gather it yourself or share information with us to follow up, because that's unacceptable. That is absolutely not supposed to happen.
Right. Now, what kind of information do I need to gather from them?
If,
You know, because
if you could, Mhm.
I'm sorry, I just want to be their voice, because I don't think they're so keen on, you know, complaining or whatever, but I'm hearing their complaints. And I'm a part of the NFB of Massachusetts, and I sit on the board, and I want to help my fellow federationists, and also the other people who are not part of my organization, but have guide dogs and are having this problem as well. I want to be the voice for them to say, and we all know this is unacceptable, but I want to advocate for them and try to get this problem resolved.
I agree with you. This should absolutely never happen. My intent is to make sure that we capture this information and we can investigate that. And if you could get driver information, trip information, a date,
Okay.
anything that you could share with us so we
Sure.
can take it back to those Uber and Lyft drivers and investigate.
Okay.
They
All right.
will, and I'm just reading this from a staff member, that Uber and Lyft will separate from a driver if it is found that they refused a trip to somebody with a guide dog.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Shirley, for your comments, and we hope to see you at the listening session in January.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification, Jessica.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. So clarification from Cassandra for her question. She said an app designed for ride customers to track their ride the same way that drivers use for Lyft and Uber. So would something like that be possible?
That is all of our dream, and we're going to make that a reality. That is something that we've incorporated into the RFP for new software. And all of us are going to work toward that. So you can expect to see that when we introduce new software.
Okay. And then one more question from the chat before we move on to Elizabeth Dienklauer from Abby Swain. Michelle, can you just say a few more words about what services UServe and Curb provide within the ride system?
Well, we're looking to introduce them in January. And it's to supplement our fleet and provide additional ADA paratransit level door-to-door service for customers. So this is in the same fashion as our dedicated service providers. We're slowly going to introduce them, and we're putting together information and messaging to share with our customers. Some of the differences that they have the same level in testing and training as all ride drivers, and you'll see the same service. The difference is you will see a car that is marked with a magnet or some type of identification as a ride vehicle, and the drivers will have an identification that they wear that demonstrates that they're ride drivers.
So they're not like Uber and Lyft, which was another
They're
question.
not like Uber and Lyft. It's compliant with ADA. It's
Okay.
ADA paratransit level service.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next, we have Elizabeth Dienklauer.
Yes, this is Elizabeth Dienklauer. I'm one of the RIDE subcommittee co-chairs. I'm not able to have my video on this evening. Thank you, Michelle, for answering these questions. And thank you very much to all of those who of you who are telling your stories, in particular of what has been your experience with either the ride vehicles, the track system, or the Uber Lyft system. One of these, I know, Michelle, you're going to be deferring to January, but I do hope as part of discussing how situations, we hope a combination difficult situation, meltdown basically for those of us, and I and some other subcommittee members were among those affected on November 11th. The problem actually started Thursday, the 10th. So one of our questions for January will be, how would we even have alerted someone that our calls didn't, that we knew there were problems with our trips as of Thursday by when 9 o'clock came and no outgoing scheduled times arrived and the number was crackly. How would someone, it will be helpful to know how your staff is alerted when there's a problem, even say the night before service, but also how anyone would get through, would be able to make that information known. I think we talked about the possibility of an email list, and I'm using the email list, I should say, for that purpose. But I know you'll get back to that. So I just wanted to add that, though, that again, as the complaints show, a number of us indicated that the problem, one portion of that problem began Thursday night. And with the knowledge that at the very least, it wasn't possible to know trip information Thursday, how would that portion be communicated and much earlier than say 12 noon on the robocall on Friday? But I'm going to the questions that are of relevance for tonight that I've both heard and shared the issue of very lengthy dispatch call related times. That if a trip, say a medical appointment is running, the timing is running differently and the trip needs to be canceled, that if I am part of the Ride Flex program, if I've made an alternative arrangement, I've often been home by the time 25, 35 minutes have elapsed to get someone on the phone for that purpose. And these are not during rush hour or that 4 to 5 time frame, or it's earlier than that. So certainly the impact of that continues I think that you're hearing from multiple people, not only this meeting, but prior meetings, that we're still seeking to have some kind of different way, even if it's not, we've already been through the request for direct contact to, I say a dispatch level person, but at the very least for things that have to do with the ride that just went by, the vehicle that just went by, someone trying to resolve that, the stranding issues, the issues where, without wanting to have a driver inconvenienced to go to a location that's no longer relevant, that the ride times, that those wait times on the phone are so long that it either the person is waiting disproportionately an amount of time, or so that continues to be a problem. And I just wanted to voice that, at least for anyone using the Lyft, Uber, Wave vehicles, the wheelchair accessible vehicles, in my experience, that even after the new contracts have been signed, the Uber Wave vehicles are really almost a non-option for me. And I live in Boston and usually I'm traveling to Boston. I know there's the separate issue that even people, certainly Medford is not far away, and that even people who live a little bit more on the outskirts of the ride map should certainly receive reasonable service. But just so you folks know that at least when it comes to Uber Wave, people who live or need to go to downtown Boston aren't getting service either. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I jotted down a couple of notes about concerns, and I understand that you continue to bring them to us. And I can tell you that behind the scenes, we are working to resolve this. And what we have done is reached out to corporate resources. We've used external resources to do some of the troubleshooting for our recent service issue. But what we're working on, and we'll be able to speak to in more detail, or we're working on improving customer access to information, easier access to more accurate information is what we're working on. We're working on tech solutions, and those tech solutions, and I don't always want to say that tech solves everything, but some of these technical solutions will improve our ability to manage performance and monitor metrics, and messaging and communications we're working on. And I can tell you that we are working behind the scenes on how we can capture email addresses and cell phone numbers, and we're exploring options for text messaging to our customers. So we do have a number of initiatives that are underway, and that some of what I'll be prepared to speak to. So we are getting there. I want you to know, and this is what I'm gonna go with. I hear everyone's frustration, and I can tell you that I'm frustrated and my team is frustrated. We have a lot of great ideas and we're working toward a lot of solutions. And I know I preach patience, but we are chipping away at some of these concerns. And I hope to have some really solid, positive results to report to you in January.
Yes, well, we'll look forward to hearing those. And also, I do want to acknowledge that I realize that solutions that involve text messaging or emails do not capture the full ridership. Not everyone has a smartphone. I want to acknowledge that, but I think at least if there are multiple different ways people potentially could at least hear updates, or I should say receive updates, or provide critical information if, for instance, at the leadership levels, you folks might not know that something that usually happens very matter-of-factly night in and night out between 6 and 9 didn't happen. No one could get through. That it might not have come. It might have been that the reason that people thought it, even if part of the technology issue didn't happen till after midnight, there isn't a current way to that I'm aware of to alert people that there is such an issue. So thank you, and we do look forward to the follow-up on this very important set of issues.
Absolutely, and thank you for bringing them up and allowing me to close more strongly. But yes, I'm looking forward to being able to share information and collaborate with our TAG members moving forward in January. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Next question from the chat from Rachel Corey. Does the MBTA provide training to third-party drivers directly, in particular drivers who are passing by customers, especially since there's a driver shortage? It seems like separating from drivers isn't the solution, but possibly retraining or training.
We do not provide driver training to Uber and Lyft drivers. Is that the ask, or is it to our dedicated service providers?
Rachel, would you like to clarify?
Sure, just hearing what's been going on tonight, it sounds like there's an opportunity to train or retrain rather than separate from drivers who are bypassing, just also because there's a driver shortage.
We don't provide the training to our non-dedicated service providers, Uber and Lyft. They do that on their own. But there are opportunities with our dedicated service providers, our veterans and our national drivers. And they work closely to identify coaching opportunities and provide refresher training based on feedback from us. I'm not sure I entirely answered your question, but we do not provide training to the Ubers and the Lyfts.
Do you think that's something that could happen in the future? No.
No, not with the relationship and how they operate, no. We could provide feedback to them, but not the actual training, but thank you for asking.
All right, next up, we have Peter Cronus.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Hey, Jessica, how
Peter.
are you?
Good to see you, Peter.
Good to see you. You're gonna get back to me at some point, right?
Yes, I am. You're still on my schedule. You're a hard man to pin down, Peter. You're very
Anytime
busy.
before 4 p.m. First of all, it's good to be here. I'm glad that the T is working on these issues, but it seems to me that the more we work on the issues, the more they stay the same. It's like the wheels are in motion, but the car can't seem to move. And I have, at several of these meetings, provided ways that would actually help the call center. One of the ways is, instead of people who need to speak to dispatch, instead of having that go to the call center, let there be an option, like there used to be years ago, for the passenger to just call dispatch directly if it's about a late ride. That would solve your issue. The other thing that would be very helpful, which would even cut down calls, I believe even more, is once you figure out a way for passengers to track the ride on their cell phone, like we used to with the other system, is if you added a feature where instead of the passenger having to call dispatch or the driver, or the call center, where they could somehow send a message that would show up on the driver's screen. Now, I know drivers can't have cell phones, but if there was a way to add an option, and the driver, when he stops, could just take a minute to say, I'm only 2 minutes away, or I'll be there at this time, I'll be there, I'm running late. So if the driver and passenger could communicate directly, and in order for that to work effectively, there would have to be a mechanism in place where when a passenger did that, it would also forward automatically to you, Michelle, and dispatch, so that you can, in case the driver, because some drivers could say, oh, I'm, and never show up, and say the passenger didn't show up. So you'd have to have a safety mechanism in there.
Peter, I understand that they're not new ideas. And our team has been thinking and brainstorming and working on a number of these ideas. It's just not that easy to implement immediately.
No,
The request,
it isn't.
yeah, and the
It isn't. I know.
technology,
Technology takes time, but it's just something that,
it's on the radar.
right. But you got to get that radar needle moving.
Well, we do have an RFP for software that's out on the street now. Many of these aspects and these asks by our customers and by us have been incorporated into that software. And I will tell you that we do have an RTAG representative on our technical evaluation committee for the software procurement.
Right, but
So,
right now, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, as it starts progressing, you will start to see feedback about opportunities to utilize that technology to give people access to real-time information. Because I think empowerment, self-service, all of these things that you're asking for, we want to give you. We don't want people to have to wait on call to speak to a representative unless they absolutely have to. We'd like to empower customers to make their own decisions, access information, and change trips when they want to on their time.
But
So
I'm sorry, go ahead, I
was just gonna say, we are looking to get there, Peter. We do hear you.
Okay, but one thing you could do now, because technology does take time, is there's no reason right now why you can't add a phone option for the passenger to speak directly with dispatch. There's no excuse for me as a passenger having to go through the system the way it is now. It's terrible. It's a terrible system. And,
There are hold times for dispatchers as well.
but at
Given the,
least if you're in a hold time for a dispatcher, you know you're gonna speak to a dispatcher and not someone who's gonna tell you, oh, I gotta email dispatch. No, you can't stay on hold while I get a response because dispatch may take this much long. At least if I'm on hold and in the queue for dispatch, you could even have a system set up where every few minutes, a robo thing comes on saying, listen, if you would like a call back from dispatch, you would still remain in the queue and a call would come within 10 to 15 minutes, let's say. I mean,
Peter,
there's
don't
all
think that
kinds of-
that's not an ask. Don't think that that's not an ask. These are some of the things that I'm speaking to that we're looking to introduce. We are just not there yet. It doesn't mean it's not on our radar.
But that's something that shouldn't take more than a couple of days. You're talking about just saying, okay, for dispatch, press extension this. Or you give, I mean, it shouldn't take this long. I've been talking about this before you even came on board. And I spoke again when you first came on board about
Yes,
this.
you did. Yes, you did.
So-
And I
so
don't know
it's
that
not
we're
like-
prepared.
So I understand what you're saying, that what, you know, you're doing this, you're doing that. That's fine. But there's still no reason why after almost a year, it hasn't been implemented.
I do not know that we can commit to giving direct access by customers to dispatch. I don't think we're there yet, but before that, there are other elements that we can do that we are working on about real-time access to accurate information. Those are things we can do. I do not think we're there. I don't think we have the staffing to allow customers direct access to dispatch. What that will do is it will tie up our dispatchers and they will not be able to dispatch for drivers.
You mean to say you
We
only
have less dispatchers than we do reservationists.
Wow, okay.
I know this
That-
is a really complicated
But-
issue.
Yeah, I was gonna
But
say,
I do feel your
I'm
pain.
not being dismissive and we can certainly talk about it further. And we talked about even mapping out processes so you can see how it currently works.
Yep.
Two
just-
quick
Sorry,
comments.
hold on, Peter. I just want to say, I know, because I want to watch time. We have about 15 minutes left and I want to make sure we get through everyone else in the
Yep.
queue.
Just want to make, I just want to make.
Go
two
ahead,
quick-
Peter, last point.
I just want to finish. First of all, I feel your pain on the recruiting issues. I'm having the same problem trying to find personal care assistants. So I know what it's like out there. I feel your pain. I've been looking for 4 years for more work help. It's bad. Number two, on the listening session, will we be getting emails so that we can join in on that listening session in January?
The listening session information will be posted on the T's website. And you can join in. Certainly, Peter will make sure that you get that information.
Thank you.
But the listening session information and the registration link will be posted on the MBTA's website in the next couple of weeks by January 1st.
We also have a link on the ride site to get
Yeah,
to.
Have good holidays, everyone.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays.
Holidays, Peter. I have a couple more questions left. And Jennifer Smith Workman.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, Jennifer.
Hi, Michelle and other people. I'm not sure if anyone else has had this same problem that I have had with Flex. It seems like, and I know with the Uber and Lyft, their prices go up and change the later in the day. But why should my $3 trip change higher as well in the day with my Lyft request? But for my destination, but on my return, I get my $3 trip. I'm just wondering if anyone else has had this same issue with their Flex program.
Uber and Lyft are subject to surge pricing. The T covers up to $40. We subsidize the trip up to $40. It's in our policy that once you hit a trip that exceeds that, you're responsible for the difference.
Okay, I have to double check on my trips for that.
Mhm.
For that, but also I have a question in regards to the Flex program and people that are being diverted to Uber and Lyft when they have requests with the ride. I
Mhm.
thought, my understanding, I'm not sure if things have changed, you had to be with the Flex program for you to be diverted to it. Is that not so?
We ask our customers to opt in to be brokered to Uber and Lyft. Yes, that's the integrated service.
Because I hear this and like Miss Shirley, if she were in the program, she could have easily just called Lyft, opened up her app and called her Lyft and let them know where she were. So this is what I'm wondering. If she was in the Flex program, why couldn't she just not open her Lyft app?
I'm not entirely clear on how Shirley booked her trip, if she booked it herself.
Yeah.
If she booked it herself, she should be able to look at that. I'm not sure what type of trip Shirley was referring to.
No, I think she was diverted to the Lyft.
The integrated where.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the integrated.
And
'Cause
that's different. You're right. Then it's booked by track and she wouldn't have access to that information.
Michelle, just for clarification from here in the chat, I just got a message directly. If someone is redirected to Uber and Lyft, are they responsible for the surge pricing?
No.
I'm sorry, Jennifer, was that?
No. I know people that were also integrated into the Uber and Lyft, and they were able to get where the driver was on their phone, but they're not in the Flex program. And she is really trying hard to get into the Flex program. I keep telling her step by step to do, but she's integrated more often on Sundays than anything. But she is not able to get into the Flex program, and I'm just wondering.
Maybe that's something that Michelle and her team can follow up with this person about.
Yes.
That's what I was gonna say. If you want to separately send us an email with information, we'd be happy to reach out to her.
Yep, I just wanted to clarify in my head if these people were part of the Flex program, but they could be integrated in.
If she's receiving integrated trips, if her trips are being dispatched to Uber or Lyft, she has opted in and she is a member of the Flex program. She has to opt into the program.
Okay.
So I think that there's a little bit of confusion here, but we'd be happy to reach out.
Yep. I'll just have to go over things with her to make sure she's doing the request properly for the Flex program. But I just want to clarify, since there was mention of it, so I understand, you know.
You have to opt into the program to be a participant, to be involved in either side, the integrated or the Flex.
When you opt into the program, you're not automatically in the Flex program.
You opt into Flex, and integrated trips dispatched by track to Uber and Lyft are part of that opt-in.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'll hold you guys up. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Have a good day.
Thank you. We have only about 10 minutes left, and I do have to go through some closing housekeeping. Elizabeth, is it a quick one? Elizabeth Dienklauer, I see that you have your hand up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is quick. I just wanted to, as a comment, reiterate what Peter was saying about the importance of interim solutions. I do realize, Michelle, that I'm not saying a specific um, version of how it will play out, but the need for interim solutions, because in the interest of transparency, will you remind the people who are participating tonight what is, as much as we hope those technology, the improved software based on the procurement will help, that is a year or more out. Can you remind us what that projected timetable is?
Well, the RFP has been posted, and I believe we have our kickoff meeting next week, and we're hoping to award in the summer and begin implementing somewhere around June, and full implementation through the fall. We are
Okay,
not
that's-
that far off, but
Okay,
we
great.
are, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just gonna then say my misunderstanding, and I know it's a very rigorous schedule, and David Kingsbury, our RTAG representative, although a non-voting member,
Mhm.
has excellent expertise on this subject, so we know he's welcomes other people's input or whatever user testing will be done afterwards, but that'll be very helpful, but I'm happy that's on a very different trajectory than procurements often are, so thank you for that clarification. We'll still need interim solutions because we have the winter between now and March, particularly January and February. The weather can really be so difficult to deal with the with snow, ice, early darkness, wind, things closing down. That obviously, as far as vulnerability for the riders who might be stranded places and then be locked out if it's, say, a clinic. So we appreciate hearing what those interim solutions will be.
I
Thanks
was going
again.
to say, honestly, there's not a day goes by that we, the entire team, is not worried and focused on that. And we do have some interim solutions that we will be bringing to the table in January. And I'm hoping to report that we're further along implementation with some of those solutions by January.
Great, thank you very much. I want to move us now to some closing comments for this evening. And thank you all very much for joining us tonight and staying on so late. So just a couple closing comments. The first is that RTAG is looking to hire a full-time facilitator. If you are interested in that position or know someone who is, please check out the website of the Boston Center for Independent Living and put in an application. So if anyone's interested, it is a full-time position. Please feel free to apply. Second is that the subcommittee is looking to add the RIDE subcommittee, I should say, is looking to add 2 additional people to the group. The subcommittee meets with the Office of Transportation Access, or the RIDE, on a regular basis. And if you're interested, please send an email to rtagboston@bostoncil.org. Depending on how many people are interested, we will then conduct an informal phone conversation with you to gauge your interest and hear a little bit more about you. And then we will be selecting folks to join the subcommittee, or I should say the executive board will then select a couple folks to join the subcommittee. So if you're interested, again, please send me an email just with your contact information and why you're interested in joining the subcommittee to rtagboston@bostoncil.org. We will also stick that in the chat. All right, and that concludes tonight's meeting. Does anyone have any questions on that process before we call it for the night? Nope. All right. I look forward to seeing everyone in January. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and we'll see you next month.